Good afternoon, YouTube. Fat Cat Collections back at you with another fragrance or cologne review, once again by the house of Penhaligon's London. And this one is called Sartorial. Now, Sartorial came out in 2010, and the fragrance, the perfumer behind this particular fragrance is, I have to write it down here because I can never remember anything these days, is Bertrand Duchefort, if I'm saying that correctly. And if you're into fragrances and you do any kind of research on fragrances, you'll know that he's been the nose behind plenty of fragrances out there. His resume is pretty huge as far as how many fragrances he has designed and produced for several different companies and houses such as Acqua di Parma, and the list goes on and on and on. I really like Penhaligon's. Let me just touch on Penhaligon's a little bit. If you haven't checked out my other videos on Penhaligon's, you'll know that Penhaligon's is kind of your classic gentleman's store. They sell a lot of, or their brand has a lot to do with like shaving and man's grooming, and not the kind of man grooming like you would find in Axe or something like that. It's a classic gentleman's brand. And that's kind of what they're going for. It's very classy, it's very sophisticated, and all their fragrances kind of follow along those lines. In my opinion, of the ones that Harry over at Penhaligon sent me, none of these smell like something that a young guy would be wearing. I don't mean young like, like 30. I mean young like 18, 19, high schoolers, 25. This is not the kind of stuff you're going to find a kid in the club dancing to techno music or to house music wearing. This is sophisticated. These are gentleman colognes and gentleman products. And that's kind of what their whole branding is about. Products for a proper gentleman. And, this stuff is no exception. It's just another example, another fine example of the stuff that Penhaligon's is putting out with their name behind. It's fantastic. Now, again, if you've watched my other videos, you know that I cannot tell you every single note when I smell this stuff or any fragrance. I can just tell you whether I like it or not, and whether or not I think that you'll like it based on my taste, based on, what you may like. I can tell you that again, I say this in all my videos, that I am not the kind of guy who tends to gravitate towards fragrances that are overly fruity or overly fresh or aquatics. Now, I'm not saying I don't like those fragrances, but I'm more into the ones that are woodsy, earthy, hence my #1 fragrance in my collection, Ancre Noir. It's my absolute favorite. Second to that, Ragba. If you don't know anything about Ragba, by Lattafa, check those guys out. But this is the kind of fragrance where those fragrances are very, very daring and more, I guess, over the top. These are very, very Penhaligon's. They make fragrances that are they're not offensive. They smell like a mature, proper gentleman. That's the best way I can describe their fragrances. This is the kind of fragrance that would smell extremely fitting for a guy in a suit, for a guy, I don't know, having a nice martini somewhere in a nice classic lounge. This is not the kind of fragrance I would picture, at least personally, myself wearing, or any of the Penhaligons, wearing like jeans and a t-shirt. It's more of a sophisticated look. Not saying you cannot. I mean, I wear what I want to wear. If I want to wear a fragrance that, is for winter time, I'll wear it in the summer, So everybody can do, you can do whatever you guys want to do. But that's just kind of the vision, the image that I get when I smell a lot of their fragrances. Just classy, again, sophisticated gentleman, okay? The kind of guy who might shave with a straight razor or a safety razor with your soap and, of course, your brush, and takes the time to groom himself, as opposed to, a guy who just like hops in the shower with his Gillette Sensor Excel, with the shaving cream, whatever. This is more the refined, the guy who takes his time with the way that he grooms himself, the way that he looks, the way he presents himself. There's sophistication and a class with Penhaligon's fragrances, and again, their whole line. And again, once again, this is no exception to that particular branding. Again, this one's called Sartorial, and what I want to do is just kind of read you some of the notes that are in it, and then I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I smell, what I associate with it, and what I always do when I get a perfume or a fragrance. I spray it on first, I kind of think about it, I smell it, kind of, sometimes I'll really, if I need more time to really, I guess, get to know it more, if I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure, I'll give it a chance to wear it out, see how it dries down, see it is outside. This stuff I can kind of review it right now in the like 10-15 minutes. So this one here, and again, what I do is I'll smell it, I'll see if it reminds me of anything, and then I'll go ahead and check fragrantica and see what other people thought. Okay, so when I first smelled Sartorial by Penhaligon's, what I first got, I thought of a barbershop. I just thought of an old school barbershop, just that talcum powder smell, just that not overly over-the-top sweetness, you know, just that classic barbershop smell. And something came to mind. It was something I smelled before. And what that was there is a similarity to Brut. This stuff reminds me of something that maybe my grandfather wore. Now, I don't mean that to sound negative. This is not the kind of scent that you're going to put on and smell like an old man. Remember, when you smell an old man wearing Brut, he smells like an old man because he is an old man if he's an old man. You put Brut on a young guy, you're not going to have that opinion anymore, okay? And so this stuff just has that, it has a Brut quality. It's what I got was a similarity of Brut, that kind of certain notes in Brut, but there's a sophistication with this one. There's a refinement and a class with this particular one. Not saying Brut's a bad fragrance at all. Brut's a great fragrance, but you know, it's been around for a while and the price is really, really low. And remember, price has nothing to do with quality of a fragrance. It's all about whether you like it or not. You do things for yourself, not for what other people do. I mean, yeah, it's great to get a compliment, but how do you feel when you're wearing it? That's just most important, because that's going to allow you to project yourself in a certain way. So this stuff here, I got kind of a Brut vibe, and what's interesting is when I checked for Grantica, two of the top fragrances that this was compared to was Brut, and the other one was one called Innovation Barber. I don't know if it's called Barber. There's an E at the end, Barber. And I forget which house that was actually from. But again, and other people refer to this as a refined Brut. So don't let that, again, dissuade you from trying this fragrance. Now, I put this on about 10 minutes ago, and again, I still get that vibe of just that refined, mature barbershop smell. It's not overwhelming, it's not light, it's got a perfect projection to it that just smells like a sophisticated man. So what I'm going to tell you is also the notes that are in it here, okay? This comes right off the website. So it came out in 2010. Again, the notes are aldehydes, ozonic effect. I'm not really sure what that means. Again, I'm new to fragrances. If you know, I can look it up too, but go ahead and drop a comment. Get the conversation going. Metallic effect, violet leaf, neroli. Definitely get neroli. When I first put it on, that's the first thing I thought about was neroli. I didn't tell you that. Definitely, I thought of 4711 as well, and I think that Brut probably has a neroli note in it as well, which is probably where, because neroli is such a unique note. When you smell neroli, it's like you could just tell it's neroli. And so this one definitely has that neroli note, just like 4711. And there's another one that I have in my collection also that I made that comparison to as well. And I think that several of the fragrances that Penhaligon's makes actually have neroli in it. And I think that neroli, again, is associated with just a classic, it's a dated note, it's just a classic gentleman's kind of note that you'll find in a lot of the fragrances that are compared to have that barbershop vibe. What else we got? Cardamom, black pepper, fresh ginger, beeswax, linden blossom, lavender, leather. I don't get leather out of it all. Wood, patchouli, myrrh, cedarwood, tonka bean, oak moss, white musk, honey effect, old wood effect, vanilla, and amber. So I definitely get the whole neroli. I definitely get a honey vibe from it, although not a super overwhelmingly honey vibe like one I'm going to review by Scent Story, 24 Gold Elixir. That's a very strong sweet vibe. This has a very, very mild, what I get is a powdery, neroli, barbershop, slight sweetness to it. And that's from the honey. And there is a little bit of a woody quality as well. Although I don't really get tons of wood out of it, although it does have a lot of wood, I believe that the neroli and the beeswax actually tends to, I think, outshine that. Although if you really smell it, think about it. The hard thing about smelling cologne is that you want to sit here and keep smelling it, but the more you do that, you start to get olfactory fatigue. I believe that's what it's called. You start to get used to how it smells, and you can't smell anymore. And I think that happens with me quite a bit because there's times that I put on, when I first got Ancre Noir, which again is a strong fragrance, I put on like 10 sprays on that, and I couldn't smell it, and I was just like fumigating the room at my folks' house. So again, that your nose does kind of get used to stuff, especially in a closed house. I always think that a good idea to do is once you get spray cologne on, is get outside in fresh air, walk around a little with it, stop, walk around, and what that does, it kind of gets a little fresh air on you, get some fresh air into your nose, and you can pick up notes that maybe you couldn't get inside your house. Because, you know, inside your house, everybody's house has a certain odor, and if you actually do a lot of cologne collecting, I mean, it's amazing how when I'm home, I don't smell anything, whether I'm wearing cologne or not. I leave, I come back, I walk in downstairs where there's no cologne downstairs, and you can just smell. Every day I smell like a different cologne downstairs, so it's really odd. But again, that's my 2 cents on Penhaligon's Sartorial. Just your man's man, sophisticated gentleman scent. Again, with that comparison of Brut. If you do like the way that Brut smells, we have that powdery kind of, and I don't mean powdery like your Midnight in Paris. Not that strong. It just has that slight powdery, like a talcum powder you might find in a barbershop. And again, when you smell us, I think that you'll make the comparison with just a sophisticated gentleman, a well-dressed, well-groomed, clean-shaven, even though I'm not, clean-shaven gentleman who just, you know, grooms himself and has the patience to groom himself and takes care in doing so. So that's my 2 cents on Sartorial. This has been around since 2010, 6 years now, and so this fragrance I'm sure has been reviewed several times. But you know what? It's always nice to come back to these fragrances and get fresh takes on these. Again, you're not going to find a lot of people reviewing Sartorial, but if you have this, if you have any experience on this, I definitely urge you to drop a comment. Remember, if you're interested in picking up a sample or go ahead and get your hands on some of this stuff, it can be had for about the $160 price range for the 50 to 100 mil. These fragrances by Penhaligon's, I believe their main store that you can sell these is Saks Fifth Avenue in New York. Of course, you can get them all over online on their website, but I think that's primarily where they have their booth set up for you to actually get a sample. Like I said, I got samples because I review this stuff, and you know it helps to put the brand out there. Because you know, prior to reviewing colognes and getting involved in cologne collecting, I never even heard of Penhaligon's. I kind of stumbled onto them, and I was like, man, it's a brand I would really like to check out. So I contacted them, and thank you, Harry, for sending me those samples once again. Look forward to getting Opus as well. I want to check that one out. But I have several more Penhaligon's ones to review. Check out my other videos on Penhaligon's. Check the link in description. Also, remember to check the card section in the upper right-hand corner. That's where you can basically find more links, which will take you to where you can pick this stuff up, get it for the best prices, and of course get more information on some of the other Penhaligon's fragrances that you might not have discovered yet. I might say something that triggers you into, you know, maybe making a purchase and saying, you know what, that sounds really interesting. And you know what, I get comments every day by people who have watched my video and said, you know what, that sounds like something I might like. They get it, and I get a positive comment on it. So it's pretty awesome to go ahead and share your opinions with people and to have them appreciate it. So, and again, I appreciate your opinion. If you have one, go ahead and drop it in the comment. And once again, subscribe to the channel, check out the links, and as always, have a great day.